Two other talks I would like to recommend to you in class this week. Just today, we talked about how to fight and win an information war. And so this is a really great video, and I have one more thing to share with you, and those are the notes from the board. So let me bring those up. Hold on, from the class discussion today. Wait 1 second. All right, so here are the notes from class today. And after you watch, if you want to watch this TED Talk, How to Fight and Win an Information War, and the reason this is relevant to our class is that the web, the internet, social media, and the way we're connected to information today, it's created a lot of divisiveness. And so, this video here talks about information being used to help different organizations, whether they're companies or political ideologies or some other type of ideology, to help them forward their agenda. They share certain information, and that information from different organizations, different entities, countries, groups, organizations, ideological groups, that information's out there. And so how do people use information to influence the public? So mind control and persuasion. And so he talks about this, and he gives some examples of it. And it's an interesting thing to think about, and a good thing to think about, a good thing to know about, because all of that information influences you. And you want to be aware that you are influenced by information. And so technology is a tool. Do you use it, or does it use you? And one of the ways it can use you, if you're not aware of it, is all the information that's out there can really influence your perspectives and your perceptions and your viewpoints, and the decisions you make and the actions you take can all be influenced by the information. So you want to make sure you have great discernment over the information that you're consuming, and also to be able to discern, right, the difference between, or what information you're allowing yourself to look at and whether or not it's true. So just to illustrate this in a concrete way, right now there's a lot of political divisiveness, around the world. And in part, that is because of all the information that's on the web. And so people can expose themselves to one viewpoint or another viewpoint. We'll call it viewpoint A or viewpoint B. You could just as easily call it being a liberal or being conservative. And so viewpoint A, viewpoint B, if you just expose yourself to information in that viewpoint, then that's going to be become your reality. All those stories, all the things that get fed to you, and you'll find different facts, and that'll become your reality. And so that's just a psychological principle that happens where we expose ourselves to certain information, and that becomes our perception of the way things are. And you have to remember that there's a whole lot of other information out there. And so one of the things I do, let's just say we're living in this world with viewpoint A and viewpoint B, is I really try to cultivate openness to all viewpoints. And if I have a friend who's really into viewpoint A, I'll say, why do you like viewpoint A? Why don't you tell me some of the positive things that you really find attractive about viewpoint A? And then I'll also do that with my friends who have viewpoint B, right? I'll be like, well, what do you find attractive about viewpoint B? Tell me all the positive things about viewpoint B, or political candidate B. Why don't you tell me all those positive things? And then that open-mindedness allows me to have more clarity on the different issues that are out there, to have a more balanced perspective, and to also have more discernment about what I, accept as truth, and what I kind of put into the speculative category of potentially a conspiracy. Like, who knows if there's really a deep state, and the deep state is really influencing, trying to knock down or trying to lift up viewpoint A or viewpoint B, right? A lot of different things out there. And so that allows me just to kind of remain more balanced and to not contribute to the divisiveness, but actually to be more of a uniter as opposed to a divider. And so that's what information war is all about, is information being used for mind control and persuasion. So why is it important to be aware that information wars occur? Because we want to be able to make sure that the information that we consume is reliable. It's not just like junk that we're getting from who knows where. And it's really hard for a society, right? Why is it important to know about information wars? It's hard for a society to operate if there's not a single source of truth, meaning we all have the same perspective of what's going on. It's hard to make a group of people work together in an efficient, collaborative, cooperative way if there's group A and group B and they both are going in separate directions, right? They're both thinking different things need to be done, then we're not efficient as a group of people, as a society. So making sure, we're aware of that there's competing information out there, and we all need to work together to figure out what is the truth and have consensus on the truth. That allows us as a collective organization, group of people, as a society, to make better decisions, take better actions, to get more stuff done, to be operating more in alignment with what really is important. So it's important to be aware of information wars and all the information is out there and all the divisive information we could fall into, so that we're checking to see if our information is reliable, and also so that we could, be uniters who are looking for the source, the truth, and so that we could build consensus and make decisions together, so we could be more efficient and effective and get more stuff done. Otherwise, if we aren't aware of this, it leads to discord, dissonance, division, us and them mentality, and that just leads to eventually war, and that's not positive. From a viewpoint, a judgment perspective of nobody wants to have pain, suffering, loss, grief, death, right? We want to avoid that. We want to enjoy our lives and enjoy each other and love each other. And that's what all the world's wisdom traditions tell us, though from a sort of perspective that is larger from the perspective of nature, a Taoist perspective where nature operates with creation and destruction. You could say it's all just part of the cycle of life. It's part of the creation and destruction of nature. But from a more human perspective, we really it'd behoove us to be more effective, collaborative, cooperative. We could really achieve much more greatness if we are all working together as opposed to at odds with each other. So that's why it's important that we know about information wars, and then also principles, right? What are the principles for mind control and persuasion? So this video talks about the different principles for mind control and persuasion, and how do you influence a group of people to do stuff using information? How do you influence people to do stuff? How do you influence a group of people to do stuff using information? And so that's known as mind control and persuasion. In business, they'll call that marketing. In politics, they'll call it propaganda. In the military, they'll call it psyops, psychological operations. In tech, you might call that engagement and the social media feed, right? So really, these are all principles for how do you influence human behavior. And those principles are that, you want to give people sense of belonging. These are all deeply rooted existential questions and needs that we all have as humans. You want to give them belonging. We all need to belong. We need some sense of I belong to a group. We're social creatures. That's how we're wired. We also need some sense of identity and purpose. This is who I am. This is what I believe. We need beliefs, right? Like, this is what I believe. This is the group I belong to. This is my identity. This is, I'm a Texan. I'm a Californian. I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, right? Like, all these beliefs lead to our identity. This is, our values, right? Like, so humans have to figure all these things out, and they're hard things to figure out. They're really deep existential things to figure out. So in mind control and persuasion, if you could give people these things, this is who you are, this is who you belong to, these are our beliefs. We're going to reclaim the great, fatherland, right? You belong to this organization of political party A, right? It's I'm just trying to think of the phrase. It's like the A people. You're part of the A people, right? Like, you belong to this group. Like, even when you start to hear that, you might notice, like, it kind of feels, there's a little bit of a good feeling. Like, you belong to group A. Welcome to group A. This is what we believe. And we're going to recapture our fatherland and make our fatherland better than it's ever been before, right? Like, these are all beliefs, identity, belonging that really persuade people. And so this video talks about those, not quite as specifically as I talked about it, but that is really, these are some of the foundational principles in the psyche that you need to use to influence mind control and persuasion. I'm teaching this to you so that you could be like, oh, that's what's happening. That's what they're doing. when you have people who are trying to, influence you. And these are such important principles. Like if you become a United States Marine, when you go through boot camp, they apply these different principles to help people more effectively become Marines, and also, interestingly, to face their fear of death. And so in boot camp in the Marine Corps, when you go through being a Marine, the very last challenge you face at the end of boot camp is called the Crucible. It's no mistake they call that last challenge the Crucible, because in Western civilization, the Crucible is a cross. And in Western civilization, the cross, Christianity, represents death and rebirth or transformation. So you go on this challenge called the Crucible, and just like in Christianity, you're reborn. After the Crucible, which is a 2-day event, you march into a ceremony called the Globe and Anchor ceremony. And some Marines refer to this as the most important day in the life of a Marine, because it's the day you become a Marine. And then they pin it on your lapel, the Marine icon, the Globe and Anchor. And they say, at least when I witnessed the ceremony, they say to you, Mr. Joe Smith, you are no longer Joe Smith, you are now a Marine. And so really it's this idea that your identity has changed from being an individual and from having this name to belonging to a group. And your new identity is that you are this group. You are a Marine, you're part of this larger group, the Marines. This becomes your belief, right? It becomes your identity, you have belonging. And in doing these things, they're reshaping your psyche: mind control, persuasion, propaganda, psychological operations, marketing, engagement. They're reshaping your identity, and then that also actually helps you face the fear of death, because an individual soldier might die, but the United States Marine Corps lives forever. And so, this belonging, this identity, this beliefs allows people to really face individual risks, because they belong to this collective whole and they're identified with the collective whole. So it's really important to know these principles so that you could use them for pro-social purposes, and you could also protect yourself from being shaped or molded by other people. These principles are also so important. Just to give you another illustration, we'll go to ChatGPT, and let me type up this prompt and I'll bring up the response. Hold on. Heard that when the cigarette companies in America wanted to market cigarettes to women, they hired a relative of either Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung, like a nephew or something, and he said that all you have to do is to get women to smoke more is make cigarette smoking an attractive part of their identity, meaning that for women who smoked cigarettes, they were more independent and attractive, and so forth. Is this true? And who was the individual who helped create this campaign? All right, so I've always heard this story secondhand. I don't know if it's actually a true story, but we are going to find out. And you can see here the story is, I've heard that when the cigarette companies in America wanted to make cigarettes, to market cigarettes to women, and I think this is in the 1960s, and I think this was in the 1950s or 60s. They hired a relative of either Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung, who are both preeminent psychologists of the 20th century, like a nephew or something. And he said that all you have to do to get women to smoke more is make cigarette smoking an attractive part of their identity, meaning that for women who smoked cigarettes, they were more independent, attractive, and so forth. Is this true? And who is the individual who helped create this campaign? Let's see what ChatGPT says. Yes, this is true. The individual you're referring to is Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew. Bernays is often regarded as the father of modern public relations and was highly influential in using psychological principles to shape public behavior. That's what we're talking about here, right? Information wars, psychological opinions, principles to shape public behavior. In the late 1920s, Bernays was hired by the American Tobacco Company to increase the number of female smokers. At the time, smoking among women was considered socially unacceptable. To change this, Bernays orchestrated a campaign that tied smoking to the emerging feminist movement and the idea of female independence. The Torches of Freedom campaign. Bernays famously launched the Torches of Freedom campaign during an Easter Sunday parade in New York City in 1929. He hired young women to march in the parade while smoking cigarettes, a bold and public act at the time. He positioned this as a statement of female liberation, suggesting that women smoking in public was a symbol of freedom and equality, aligning cigarettes with suffrage and empowerment. Suffrage is the right for women to vote. And it's a strange word to represent that, but that's what that is. By leveraging Freud's psychoanalytical ideas, Bernays created a connection between cigarettes and a woman's sense of self and empowerment. So really tying some sort of behavior that you want to have be realized to identity, right? And framing smoking is not just a habit, part of a woman's identity. There you go. This campaign played a significant role in shifting social norms and increasing cigarette consumption among women. So again, psychological warfare, psychological operations, information warfare, right? They convinced people to do something which was detrimental to their health for the benefit of corporate profits. And at the time, they didn't know that. Probably didn't know that. In the 1920s, I think it was still considered fine. Some doctors even thought it was healthy, to smoke old advertisement. There we go. Let me go to this now. Old advertisement. Doctor recommending cigarettes. Doctor recommending smoking. So at the time, right, they even had advertisements like this, like, smoke a fresh cigarette, and it's like a doctor, right? A health cigar. Our physicians call our new brand a health cigar, right? And more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. So information warfare, right? You got to protect yourself. The approach Bernays used is considered a landmark moment in advertising and public relations, illustrating how psychology could be used to manipulate consumer behavior, manipulate humans. So why is it important? We talked about that. We talked about the principles, beliefs, belonging, identity, and repetition. The more you repeat something to somebody, the more it becomes cemented into their mind. And so you can look up the illusory truth effect. And the illusory truth effect is the tendency to believe something is true after hearing or reading it repeatedly. It's a psychological principle. And even after 3 exposures to something you know is not true, you start to believe, well, maybe it has validity. So that's really important to know when you're looking at social media, because if you get exposed to something even only 3 times, you might start to believe like, well, maybe this conspiracy theory is correct, and there's this deep state that's trying to make all this stuff happen, right? So anyhow, that's the first part. And then the application of knowing this is important, understanding these principles, the application of taking this and then applying it to our lives. Just knowing this stuff allows you to have more of an open mind. It allows you to avoid having your mind controlled, avoid mind control. Allows you to learn more diverse perspectives because you're talking to more people and you're more open-minded. And allows you to make better decisions and take better actions. But also knowing this allows you to change others and change society. So you might end up owning a business. You're going to be a more pluralistic person. Pluralism, defined, is the condition or system in which 2 or more states, groups, principles, sources of authority coexist, the practice of holding more than one office or church. So pluralism, I don't know, there's some word maybe that's better than that for what I'm trying to express, but it's really about, having different perspectives. And so understanding this stuff allows you to run your business, have different perspectives, be more open to others, influence others, teach them this, and you could even change society. You might become a politician, you might become a I don't know, school board representative, you might become a mayor, you might become a governor, you might become a senator or a congressperson, you might become a vice president or a president. You never know where life's going to go. Just work hard, go to law school, whatever you're going to do, and keep applying yourself, be positive, and be a team player and help people out, and you'll go far. And that helps present, so you could change others and change society knowing all this stuff. And this helps prevent you from being a destroyer, divider, but instead you'll be a uniter and a builder. And so this is all these notes, and this last talk here really talks about not being a destroyer or divider, but being a uniter or a builder. And this is a great talk right here. The World Needs More Builders by Daniel Lubetzky. He's a billionaire, and he's a billionaire who started the Kind brand, K-I-N-D. You see those, the healthy snacks in supermarkets. And he started it, and he named it Kind for a very specific reason, because he is driven by pro-social motivations to end divisiveness and bring more kindness to humanity, which is why he named it Kind. So it's a great talk, and it talks about being a uniter and a builder as opposed to a destroyer and divider. So I really recommend you check out this talk. And then you can also check out Daniel's efforts to create more unity. It starts with us, and that starts with us. So if we go there, starts with .us. We should go to that right here. And so that starts with us right here. And it's really about ending divisiveness and being more curious, compassionate, and courageous, and talking to people who have different beliefs than yours. And so you might check this out. And that's the founder of Starts With Us, and also the founder of the Kind stuff. So I recommend both those talks. I'm going to end this video here and post up 2 videos, just because this video is a little bit more philosophical. It's important philosophy, and we'll let it stand on its own. And then in the next video, we'll jump in and talk about databases. See you in the next video.